Township Board of Trustees for Tuesday, July 14th. Everybody will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before us, we have our agenda. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections by fellow board members or department heads at this time? I've got removal of administrator number 1, scrapping of the sheriff's vehicle. And then under concerns of trustees, I'm just going to put Starfire update. Is there any other? The agenda will stand as amended. Let the record reflect Ms. Campbell's excused early due to
Not feeling well.
Yeah. illness. That'll take us to the sheriff's report. Turn it over to Lieutenant Barber.
In the month of June, we had 1,602 calls for service, about a 13% increase. Handled 27 crashes, 5 crashes with injury. Handled 83 alarms, 34 traffic stops. Just to note that number, right towards the tail end of June, we put some protocols in place that we're starting to ramp up some of that enforcement back up a little bit. Obviously in a cautious manner. I expect to see those numbers go up next month. 32 citations, 56 arrests, 71 vacation checks, 9 detective cases were assigned, 2 were closed with an arrest, stalking by menacing and violating a protection order. 1 is closed and awaiting charges for breaking and entering. Next up, we see the chart for a comparison of June 2019 to 2020. And then your look back to 2015. Still a significant increase when we started keeping these numbers. It continued, saw a little bit of a reprieve the last few months, and we're starting to see those numbers go right back up again. Anybody have any questions on that?
Is there anybody in the audience who has any questions for the sheriff's office? Okay.
Thank you.
It's going to take us to new business. I'll turn that over to Ms. Campbell.
Yeah, I'll start with new business. For several years, we've had a core group of people who have donated part of their paycheck to the Veterans Memorial. Joe Icino, Chief Schallenberger, Rob, Scott, Tom Wolf, Steve Ash, and Rob Ramey. Did I say Joe too? Okay. And Mr. Sabo, John Sabo also. And we're finally at the point where and the idea behind that was that group, as the donors, would decide what to put in there next. So I sent an email out to that group. What we've really been hoping for was a battlefield cross. So we have the money for a battlefield cross, which is very exciting. From that, I turned it over to kind of Rob, because there has been, from the beginning of Vision, and I forget how many years ago we did the monument. 6?
Yeah, I pitched it 6 years ago.
6 years ago?
5 years ago.
Of setting up the design of the monument from that day to have a purpose and a direction. So it wasn't, battlefield crosses over here, Gold Star Memorials over here, Blue Star, The goal was, that direct linear line leading up to the Keystone Monument. Well, I heard back from everybody who has donated, and they all are in agreement for a battlefield cross. So with that, I had Rob reach out to Ken Noon and meet Rob out there to kind of decide on placement and how it would go. And Ken is going to actually retrieve artifacts, he's hoping, from each conflict or war to create that battlefield cross, which will be amazing. So I just wanted to let the board know that is what's next in line for the hillside. And it's nice to see that kind of vision complete. The other thing that we have really wanted is a Purple Heart monument. So we had talked about repurposing the sign on Schneider for the market to say somehow with a barometer or thermometer, whatever you call it, somehow to show progress towards reaching a Purple Heart. So I think that's really the next goal, and then hopefully, I think as people see that, they'll think, oh wow, I can donate to that. We'll put it in the newsletter, but just to kind of then watch that growth to get to a Purple Heart, because we are one of the first Purple Heart townships. We're the first Purple Heart. So I think it's really important on that site to have a Purple Heart monument. The design, all of that, that's up to you guys, but that's just kind of the goal and the vision for that hillside.
I'd love to see some kids from the high school, some of their experience be able to maybe do a contest even.
Well, that's how we got to our Veterans Monument. And that year at the Veterans Day, we showed the different sketches and the designs of the monument, and that's how we got to what our monument looks like, which was really neat. The STEM classes got involved in
I actually
that.
went over and spent a number of sessions with
Yeah.
Shannon Palmer's STEM classes, and that's why.
Yeah, and they presented them all, and yeah, we did a town hall meeting on it and everything, so that was pretty neat. So that's what's the future of the hillside. Once we knew, you know, that we could have that Battlefield Cross, being a park, I gave that to Rob, you met out there, and were you guys able to come up with
Yeah.
a lineup?
So if you look up, and intentionally so, there's a layout basically telling a story all the way up the hill, from commitment to service to some of that sacrifice, the ultimate sacrifice, and then the culmination on the top of the hill. So when I met with Ken Noon, we've got the ability on basically flanking the
Gold Star.
Gold Star marker, thank you, I'm trying to remember which one. We still have two pieces from the original Keystone Monument we were looking to place at the appropriate
That's
time.
right, that's
So we're gonna place one, what would be to the left or just south of the blue star, one just to the north or to the right of that marker with the Battlefield Cross.
right. Is that where we want to put some gave, all gave some gave all
Those quotes that we
quote?
previously had.
That's what you guys, and I know that was years ago, but that's what we thought was appropriate at that time for the Battlefield Cross. Okay.
The two quotes that we came up with,
Essentially
one's
they're-
gonna be used on the platform, am I saying that right, Scott? On the
Essentially on
platform?
the there's two stones. Each stone will have an inscription on it. There were two prior quotes that.
Yes,
we
that were
approved.
selected, yes, right.
One will flank to the left of the Gold Star Memorial, one will flank to the right of the Gold Star Memorial. Now, whether it's the left or right in which the Battlefield Cross is mounted on and into, and I say into, because in a separate conversation I had with Ken, he will essentially bore a hole in the top so that the muzzle of the M16 seats in there. It will be encased
Oh, how neat.
with a,
Wow, okay.
like plexiglass.
Mhm.
You sit here and go, oh, what about plexiglass? I think he said there would be a little bit of edging to where it'll sit down, but then it'll also be caulked. Reason being, the boots themselves, as you may, if you've been out to the OVMP,
Mhm.
they don't last forever, especially in direct sunlight, they're gonna break down. So,
I never thought of that.
you know, they got about 10 years out there. Realistically, he had told me it's probably around eight years, so we need to be able to remove that case
Oh, that's
and so
neat.
forth.
The glass too is susceptible to weathering, you mentioned as well. But,
What's that?
He said the glass casing's also susceptible to getting
Yeah.
replaced eventually too.
But, I mean, even thick plexiglass will,
Yeah, that's what they have at the OVMP too.
even if it's quarter-inch thick or something, it'll hold it for some time, so.
Okay.
To flank on both sides with that
Okay.
Gold Star. And really, I mean, when I pitched the hillside, Alan and Lou were still both here. It's definitely been part of how we build that out, but being able to also tell the story.
Mhm.
Since John's come on, we've solidified what some of that messaging is. So to talk to Rob's point, Blue Star, starts with, hey, you've got this, you've got the service, but before you get up to the Gold Star Memorial, which will be flanked by the stones and the battlefield cross.
So it's the Gold Star that has the 2 stones in the back?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct,
Okay.
because the battlefield cross ties right in
Yes,
with the meaning
that
of
makes
the
sense.
Gold Star and the sacrifice. Well, ultimately, as you're telling that story, there are a number of folks who are injured along the way, most of who end up becoming Purple Heart recipients. So
Okay.
through the ideal logistical layout will be, after the funds are raised for the Purple Heart, that you go from the Blue Star and then flanked out to the left. So if you're looking at the hillside from the bottom of the hill, i.e. just a little bit south, there would be an area that would be flat that the Purple Heart Memorial would be. In my conversation with Ken there, won't tie it into all this. There's some design stuff because, as much as we're going to want it to be reflective, we also don't want the cookie cutter. We've got something that's niche. That Keystone Monument is an international award-winning piece of work. And that's not just me making the claim. Ken's legitimately
Yeah,
earned
he
that.
has won that award, yeah.
So, future Purple Heart, then you still proceed up to the Gold Star Memorial plaque that'll be flanked by both of those 2-foot by 3-foot pieces of granite, approximately, one of them capped with the battlefield cross,
Okay.
to where then you proceed to the top of the hill. On that note, though, I'm trying to think how best to tie this in. There's an additional element that will come before the Blue Star Memorial. And just as a little bit of backdrop, it's going to be of a bald eagle. And the bald eagle was actually chosen June 20th, 1782 as the emblem of the United States because of its long life, great strength, majestic looks, and representation of freedom. Thus the eagle, full of boundless spirit of freedom, strong and powerful in its might, has become the national emblem of a country that offers freedom in word and thought, much ado to the brave men and women who have served and sacrificed for the great nation, which is what those additional monuments and memorials on the hill. So in that spirit, I've looked for some time. I have located, secured, and will be donating. It's approximately a 4-foot tall concrete eagle statue. Donating it on two fronts. One, this park means more to me than pretty much anything in the township outside of the people, clearly. So please don't take offense. But
He likes the eagle better than all of us.
and that spirit, for me, it's still the long lineage of my family from actually on my stepmom's side. They're a Gold Star family. My uncle was killed in combat in Vietnam. He's Bronze Star, Purple Heart. To my great uncle Jack, being in a wheelchair from Korea. I know some of you have heard this, but in short, my grandfather was World War II under Patton, U.S. Army Airborne, the precursor to the Air Force. My uncle on my mom's side was a U.S. Navy chief. And then, as well, through my stepmom's side of the family, significant number in the Marine Corps. And actually, I've got a couple extended, we'll call them technically they're former family members, but I've got close connections with retired U.S. Navy Captain William Bokish and Lieutenant Colonel Arnold Bokish, who was World War II and Korean War. So I'm going to donate that to the township, but in order to get this project done, there's also a couple other individuals and we'll call it an entity that I've engaged. First, the product that we're going to provide is going to be a finished eagle, and I've been able to get that done. We'll provide pictures once it's done, but actually, former United States Marine Corps, i.e. veteran, Stark County Stark County Sheriff Deputy Jack Hewitt is working with me on this. But then to Chief Chuck Schallenberger's creative and genius ideas, we also have all of the Plain Local 2967 Fire Union guys that through their Fly the Flag program and some of the other fundraising, they said, hey, we'd like to build a pedestal to set this on, because originally I was looking at this just as a concrete pad. So in that very spirit, you know, the good work that's already being done in the township to help promote the patriotism, they're going to help pay for the block and so forth. Now that gets us the material. How do we get the material put together? Actually, Adam Farley is a former union mason, has agreed to lay up all the block in, you know, his time. So when this is all said and done, there shouldn't be expense tied back with to the taxpayers. But the concept being that by, you know, putting that eagle, you know, which is a sign of freedom and strength, it will be placed in that grassy area, right between the entrances you come in and the Stark Parks Trail. Talked with Chuck, I've talked with Joe a little bit. We'll come up approximately about 10 foot off of the trail, and it will be directly in line with, from the flagpole, the Keystone Monument, the Gold Star, the Blue Star, and then it'll be centered even with the flagpole over in front of Central Station. My plan would be, you know, if we can coordinate the efforts between this piece being added along with the remaining blocks in the battlefield cross by Labor Day, to where we would be able to do some type of ribbon cutting announcement, similar to like what we've done for the Blue Star Memorial plaque, the Gold Star Memorial plaque. But it's my way of helping advance that over there, something I'm really passionate about. So on that note, once I have the finished, I'll show you it before and I'll show you it after. I mean, plain concrete eagle statue. It's approximately 46 inches tall, about 28 inches wide, goes about 375
Wow.
pounds. It may be pushing even a little over that. So that's what I wanted to add into the Veterans Park hillside. Any other points of discussion on that?
Are you guys okay with the Purple Heart sign going up with the thermometer to raise funds for that, or do you want to wait, or?
I'm comfortable with it. I think one of the things, I don't know who I had the discussion with, but there was a great idea of actually where that may go, putting a sign there. And I'm not saying big 4x4, 4x6, 6x6 post, but put something in the vicinity that it would be located with a banner. Or that way folks will know where it's going.
Future site of,
And
kind
then,
of
but
thing?
on that banner, or whatever we create for signage, it should ultimately, you know, outside of giving a visual of it, which, I mean, we can work with Ken to give us the concept, because he did the one out at OVMP, and it's not the textbook cookie cutter one, because they want something different. At least in brainstorming with him. I also do not want to mimic exactly OVMP, because we've got something unique over here. There's only 2 or 3 small criteria that have to be met
Yeah.
to
That's true.
make it compliant with that. So it may be, instead of going laterally, it's more of a vertical. But at that point, once we would agree upon some type of design, get that on that signage, but then also put the barometer, put language, donations being accepted towards this project.
And through Heroes Honored Inc., so that it's tax deductible. Is that okay,
Yeah.
Tom?
Actually, that'd be, yeah, that's a perfect.
Yeah, if we use Tom's
Yeah.
nonprofit he created for it, that would be
We
great.
thought it's better off to go with the design first and figure out where we want it before
Yeah.
we start advertising.
Yeah,
Because we want to be what we don't want is to start collecting money and then all of a sudden
Yeah.
midstream change. And then somebody says, well, that was different than what
yeah,
we want to be 100% certain. Because when we got up there and we looked at all of that, we don't want it to be busy either. So,
Yeah.
we thought, let's get these in place.
okay,
Figure out how we want to do these in this particular phase. But in that then, plan, okay, so the next spot is going to be here for the Purple Heart Onion.
has anybody asked Ken for a rendering, or do you want Bob to?
Yeah, I'll get what.
You'll ask him, okay.
On it, because
Okay,
actually, I mean,
We just wanted to tell a story,
yeah,
and we want that story advertised. And as we start to build on it, we want that advertised.
okay,
Because just putting up monuments is putting up monuments.
yeah. Okay. And that is the end of new business.
all right, that will take us to the fiscal officer's report, and I'm going to turn that over to Mr. Wolf.
Thank you. Fiscal Officer number 1 is a request for resolution to authorize the payment of pending warrants in the amount of $224,364.09.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes, but I do have a question I wanted to, do I ask you after?
You can ask now.
Yeah.
That's great.
Looking at line number, warrant receipt 42807 for a desk of, $1,600 desk. Was there not a desk for Mr. Shaw prior to this? That there had to be a desk spent in that amount? It says Ryan Shaw desk furniture.
Actually, $1,600 is,
I didn't know if we had already a desk there.
There was a desk, it was broken and falling apart. But I think we got him a new chair too, because,
Desk, chair, and
and
filing
filing cabinets, so we could actually get some organization, but, yeah, and it's, I think part of it is a standing desk now, so that you can elevate to stand, so, sitting's the new smoking, but yeah, he did need a new desk.
And there was, so it was a replacement desk. Okay.
Yeah,
That's the only question I have.
Okay. Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 2 is a request for resolution to authorize payment of regular payroll in an amount not to exceed $250,000.
so moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 3 is a request for resolution to authorize payment for the following medical claims.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 4 is internal audit committee meeting. It's just an update. We had a couple meetings in June and July to go over the CARES Act and the funding we'll be receiving and how to spend those funds within the restrictions that are set forth. And also we reviewed the fire budget, park budget, and some of the decreases we're seeing in funding because of COVID-19 and lack of programming and shelters and bed tax, gas tax. So I just wanted to give an update on that. Any questions regarding internal audit committee?
No question, just a comment, because we did go over some of that earlier, and I just want to thank everybody for working on that. I know in my case, I spent a lot of time on budgets when I was the fire chief, and I know what kind of work it takes, and I know the agony you guys go through to get those ready. And, I appreciate the cooperation and the coordination, Tom, from your office, and Lisa and all the department heads. That's a task. And I think by us working together, everybody is a little bit more familiar with what's going on in each department. So again, thanks to everybody. And don't think
And
for
Tom
one
has created
second-
that culture though.
Yeah, but don't think for one second that this board doesn't take notice of that as well.
Thank you. Fiscal officer number 5 is the financial report for the month of June.
Anybody's got questions, see Tom afterwards on that.
Fiscal officer number 6 is a request for resolution to authorize the following transfers.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Fiscal officer number 7 is a request for resolution to authorize a refund as follows for overpayments for EMS as requested by Ohio Billing.
I'll move on to fiscal officer number 7.
I'll second.
Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Fiscal officer number 8 is a request for resolution to set a public hearing for the 2021 alternative tax budget on July 28, 2020 at 6:15 p.m. and to further authorize Plain Township fiscal officer to publish a notice of the public hearing in the repository at least 10 days prior to the hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, roll call.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
And that concludes fiscal officer report.
Actually, I was made aware, we actually, at the beginning of the meeting, when initially needed to strike scrapping a sheriff's vehicle, we need to add that back on, so please I'm gonna turn that over.
Actually, Scott, can you do the resolution, because I didn't bring a hard copy thinking you were taking it off. But Luther just wants to be 100% covered and would like a separate resolution.
I think we already have it.
Yeah, it's on here, page
Yeah,
32.
Already have
we
it.
took it off,
Yeah.
but then put it back on.
Yeah, we already have it. It's going to be immediate.
I'll move on, administrator number 1,
I'll second.
discussion, roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Thank you. That concludes the administrator. We'll take us to the fire department, Chief Shalver.
Item number 1 is our monthly report.
So you guys got quite a bit of use out of that new car already?
That picture is there of the car fire trailer in use. And, we got a little garage built for it there so it can get stowed away when we're not using it and keep it out of the weather.
Is that between the storage units or the?
It's on the
Trailer?
east side
Okay.
of the building, of the storage container. Yep.
Okay, next.
Item number 2 is a resolution by Plain Township Board of Trustees to change the status of part-time EMT firefighter Michael Hinkle to part-time firefighter paramedic with an increase of $16.50 per hour per resolution 20-289.
I will still move on fire number 2.
Second.
Discussion, just as a point of clarification, this is because of he's graduating.
Yeah, he's went from an EMT status to a paramedic status, so we're bumping him up in our, his pay per hour.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Item number 3 is a resolution by the Plain Township Board of Trustees. The Plain Township Fire Department is authorized to enter into an attached contract with the Regional Collection Agency regarding non-payment for EMS transport services provided by Plain Township Fire Department.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
And item number 4 is basically just an informational thing on our EMS grant. That money is provided by seatbelt fines through the Ohio Department of EMS. We applied for that. and it's pretty close to $3,000 we can use only on EMS equipment and related expenditures. So we'll turn in receipts and get that money back as the year goes on here. So,
That's a reimbursement grant.
yes, we have to spend the money and then turn in receipts to get it back. So, but we're allocated up to, it's 20, I think it's 2850 is the exact number. So, and, okay. And item number 5 is a resolution to authorize the purchase of mattresses and box springs from the original mattress factory in the amount not to exceed $6,500 to be taken from Fund 28A05A.
I'll move on FD number 5.
Second. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Okay, and then item number 6 is a resolution by Plain Township Board of Trustees to authorize the purchase of payment of one 45 by 60 Safety City tarp from Electric Tarp in the amount not to exceed $6,000 to be taken from Fund 10A08.
So moved.
Second.
I have a question.
Get a discussion.
I have a question. If I have a relative that works for that company, can I vote on this?
The ultra precaution is always, you can say
Yeah, I
no.
always advise you,
If
if it's
Okay.
not something that
If
we
they're not
consider to be a
I
contingency.
just thought of that just now.
Yeah, absolutely,
Okay.
abstain.
Thank you. That was my discussion.
Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Abstain.
Thank you, that concludes fire department.
Thank you, Chief. Going to take this road department, Mr. Iacino.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, item number 1 is June's monthly report. If you have any questions, I'd be willing, glad to answer them.
All the paving didn't turn out great this year.
Yeah, I will have a total at the next meeting, because we came in well under budget.
I'd like to hear that. I couldn't help but chuckle, because I think I saw somewhere just within the last month, we're just starting to advertise for bids.
Yes,
I mean, that it just blows my mind how.
Perry Township's one of them, yeah. I don't know how you just start right now.
Yeah, we have a little bit of pain and get done next week, and then they'll be finalized.
And that's what gets people upset, is you have all summer, and I know it's a different school year this year, but people, all of a sudden, it's time to get kids to school, and then there's all that road construction.
That's always a complaint, yeah.
That's why we get ours done early.
It's appreciative.
Okay. Thanks, Joe.
Item number 2 is a resolution to participate in the Stark County Engineers Cooperative Purchasing Zone Program for the years 2021 and 21-22 with Cargill Salt. And the price is listed.
Also move.
Second.
Discussion, I mean, this, clearly the prices of,
The price for this coming winter has come down $4 a ton. For some reason, and like we talked before about the rental of salt and all that, we should be fine there. But with the new buildings, we'll have to get ours conveyed in, so that price will probably equal out for the next couple of years on, because we can store more when we convey it, so, because it goes up higher than we can get with our equipment.
okay. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Item number 2 is a resolution to contract with American Demolition, Inc. for the demolition of the existing salt building. Demolition will include removal of roof and wood structure and all metal brackets attached to the wood structure, not to exceed $12,400.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, just to clarify for the public, the 2 other bids were a little over 14 and 17 grand. No further discussion, roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
And item number 4 is a resolution to authorize the purchase and installation of a grapple bucket with bolt-on edge from Southeastern Equipment, not to exceed $21,917.24. To be divided between 2 separate funds in the departments.
I will so move on road number 4.
Second.
Discussion. Joe, just to clarify, as compared to the old school bucket, when we get large debris down there, this will allow us to.
It's basically a clam, so it comes down, but, and Lisa and I both got money back from the solid waste district this year, so we're putting that towards it.
Yeah, so we
Some of
split, we each paying 11,000 and then we got close to 5 in a grant, so really it's not costing us that much. But Joe brought me down there, not to interrupt, and he showed me what was happening now with the bucket is you pick it up, so much of it falls out. So it's taking more time, energy, and this, you know, grabs it and puts it in, so it'll be a lot more efficient.
And it needs to do a lot of hydraulic valves in our existing loader is why the price, because as you see, is separated for putting that in and the price of the bucket. It'll be there forever now, once we get it done.
No further discussion and roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Thank you.
It's going to take us to the zoning department, Mr. Farrar.
Thank you, sir. First item on the agenda is the monthly report.
Just a quick question. Have we started to get more inquiries about the fountains at Edgewood? I know there's a little bit of activity going on
We've
over there
got
already, but.
several homes that the permits came in.
Perfect. Okay. Do you got any questions? Okay, next.
Item number 2 is a resolution to declare items A through D as nuisance abatements.
I will so move.
I'll second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
And item number 3 is a resolution to declare items A through D as nuisance abatements.
I will move on zone 3.
Second. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
And that's all for zoning.
Thank you, Tom. That'll take us to Parks. Mr. Steinberg.
Thank you. Item number 1 is the monthly report.
Okay. Next.
I think we could probably go ahead and pass up on 2. I think we had that discussion already as part of new business, unless you'd like to discuss further.
Heather, do you have any additional need for discussion on that?
Okay, then item number 3 is a resolution by the Plain Township Board of Trustees to hire Patrick Gerber at a rate of $10 an hour in the Parks Department effective August 1st as a soccer supervisor in the clean facility of the Diamond Sports Complex in accordance with the state and local health department's guidelines to be reimbursed by the COVID CARES Act.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Yes, if you don't mind me elaborating, a lot of these guidelines are coming back with the competition right now, and outside of facilities having to upload certain information on a daily basis, which is no big deal. We have the portal to do so on our team sideline. The other piece of it is requiring and enforcing some social distancing, and of course the cleaning that comes along with having restrooms available. So that's what we would see him doing, as well as being able to have that reimbursed all the way through December is a benefit to us.
Just to clarify that, the money is available through December, but we have to have it encumbered by when?
October. So yeah, we'll want to encumber his entire
Correct.
salary through
Yeah.
December.
Yeah.
Make sure that when we open that,
Okay.
yeah.
Yep, no problem.
No further discussion. Roll call.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Thank you. Item number 4 is simply a discussion item to talk about not only the community events, I think as it relates to this year, remaining on the schedule, which are indeed our Salute to Veterans event, as well as our Winterfest event. And I know Lisa mentioned during the conversation in our public work session about how these look probably moving forward. So I'm just looking for some input on the board, from the board, I should say. I will tell you ahead of time, I think there's two discussions we're having. I think we're having a discussion as it relates to the pandemic and what we can do and how we can social distance and mass gatherings and all those things. I also think there's a financial discussion to be had based on revenue losses and costs of some of these community events. So I realize they're two separate discussions, but I think they result back into probably a similar result, depending upon how we see fit to move forward. I did take the time to contact all of our partners for Salute to Veterans. In a nutshell, most aren't doing any public events the remainder of the year. The three entities that would be available if we had the event would be the Patriot Project, the Sam Center, and Mission Barbecue would indeed provide meal and staffing at the event. They're going to provide me an updated quote on what that would look like, because again, additional staffing to serve as opposed to buffet style like we've had in the past. As it relates to Winterfest, I think it's the same thing.
Hey, Rob,
I
I'll
apologize.
interject on, for their quote for the food, are they able to work with volunteers that can serve that food if it saves cost?
Twofold. One, their preparation has to increase and the delivery has to increase because of the way they're spacing it. And then, yes, we absolutely can use the volunteers we used in the past. Did I answer that right? I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's good.
And then the second discussion, obviously, with Winterfest, if you want to tackle them singly or as a whole, I'm certainly open to discussion or input by all. With Winterfest, it is one of our more costly events because of the activities, because of the continued replacement of lights as they burn out, displays, same principle. I don't have a crystal ball, but I can tell you, just looking at Children with Santa is very high touch, high volume. So again, I'd like to just open it up for discussion and get some input.
I know we discussed this, I think, last week about it. Did you contact the school as well as the band out?
I haven't contacted the schools yet because I know that they're working towards their scenario for opening. And I guess in another instance, I had communication with somebody else reaching out to them for an event, and the response was, give us a chance to get this coordination of opening down, and then they'll circle back based on what they can do with after opening with activity. So I was just trying to be patient. Yeah.
You know, we need to know a little bit.
Yeah.
Now, I'm just worried about the liability. If somebody comes, gets sick, catches COVID, how do we do release forms? Does it fall back on us? How does our insurance company?
It's upon us to advertise the rules, and if somebody is not going to follow them, they can be asked to leave. It's as simple as that, because from a governmental immunity aspect, there's only so much we can humanly do. It's no different than, you know, the sheriff's got to enforce laws. Scott, you need to drive 40 or 45 on Easton. If I say screw that, I'm not following it, I'm gonna fly 55, 70 miles an hour out there, well, assuming the sheriff's out there, which given we've got good coverage, I'm gonna end up with a ticket. Well, any of these events.
Are the majority of the people who attend, do you feel fall in the higher risk category over 65?
Salute, I think there's a significant number, for sure.
It's split.
With the age bracket alone, I would say Salute is the one that would have a significant number. I hate to speak the percentages because I run around so much I barely see who's there, but obviously given the crowd that we're dealing with, there's a significant number. Winterfest, again, is tough for me to calculate. Obviously, there's a lot of families, but I wouldn't speak to the risk factor only because I don't know if the existing conditions exist with each and every one of them. But from the outwardly obvious high risk factor of age, I think you have a significant number of Salute.
What are the numbers right now?
Yeah.
What are the allowable congregation numbers right now? Is
No,
it
the rule of 10
It's
expired
it's
as of
actually-
July 1.
Oh, it's an
Actually-
isn't it?
Actually, that would fall more under banquet criteria,
Yeah.
which
The
you could
Salute
distance
would,
them.
for sure.
Yeah, you could distance them at six foot.
I think
No,
it's
given no
capacity
density goes
related
on.
too. Yeah. It's social distancing plus, I think there's a percentage based on the capacity number allowed in each facility.
So normally the 10 or 12 vendors you have there would be down to maybe 2. What is a normal cost that we spend on this event?
After sponsorship, that cost is right around, I don't remember the exact, it was right around $3,000. For Salute is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
For Winterfest, it's,
What does
I
that
think
mean?
the net cost after sponsorship and donations last year was $8,500.
Have you reached out to any of the sponsors to see if they would even be willing to sponsor this year? Because everybody's kind of
That,
low on money and funds.
that's step one, and step, I have sent sponsorship requests out to see where their
Yeah.
budgets sit right now, considering some of the cuts they've been making. I try to give them a week, and then I try to follow up with a phone call from there.
Have you heard back from any sponsors yet?
The week would be, Thursday of this week would be the call that I would make if I don't hear back.
You sent for Salute and Winterfest?
Dog Park Salute, I have not gotten the Winterfest yet, no.
Honestly, game time, or final decision would need to be made probably no later than end of August on Salute.
I would think by the time the newsletter goes out, so we could advertise accordingly, would be the best bet. I think it goes out, what, middle of August?
Mm-hmm.
I would give you the release.
So we,
There's just so
I-
many, you
we
know.
would need, the thing is, we're not gonna manage it. We gotta manage to what we can control. Folks are adults, they have the ability to make their own decisions and choices, especially at least on the one event. If we're doing it, I almost feel for both events, it almost becomes like a, I don't know if it's an RSVP, if we were to proceed with it, saying, hey, it's fixed, it's finite numbers, because
That'd be the only way you could control it.
Yeah.
You couldn't wait for
and
that
if you're
day,
not- if you're not on,
and then
if you're not.
have it be a really nice day, and then all of a sudden, a whole bunch of people show up,
The
and it's
reality
like,
is
now
that-
what are we gonna do?
The reality is,
You were out? No, I'm a veteran, I'm in. That could be catastrophic.
We're also putting ourselves at risk. I mean, how many, honestly, I don't want to be there. I would want, because I'm high risk. I do not want to put myself in that situation.
What'd you say, Joe?
I won't work either one of them.
I won't go either one. I won't put
again,
myself
and
in.
that goes back to making a knowing choice.
But if we're supposed to lead it and some of us aren't there, I mean,
It can be duly noted, no different than a meeting. The world doesn't come to a screeching halt just because one or two individuals.
oh, I didn't say that, Scott. You're right. Words were nothing to say.
I didn't say you said that. I'm making a
When's the
statement.
newsletter go out?
Mid-August?
Mid-August.
I can call the health department, measure the square footage over there, just to try to get some kind of number from them.
I don't think, one, we're in a position to make a call right tonight. I
No.
think there's
Not at
additional
Well, I just
direction
meant
of.
just to kind of see, am I allowed to have?
I think we need
How
to
many
have
of,
those
how many of our
budgets.
employees have to work the event? Does most of the
Oh.
fire department work? Does the road department work to set up?
Well, we're gonna be
How many
there
of them will be
no matter
conjugated
what.
to work this event?
A lot of
The
them
basic
do,
question.
yeah.
A lot of,
Mm-hmm.
There's probably 10 to 15 people probably between on-duty, off-duty personnel that probably help.
From
you know.
fire.
Well, I mean, from probably 20 altogether between parks, road, zoning, some of the secretaries, some department heads, et cetera, probably 20 people, I think, what do you think? That are there?
Yeah.
Probably, but they're there in anticipation of a larger crowd.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
that's true.
So it would be
And
less
indeed, we've
employees.
been overstaffed to a degree.
I would get a number
Capacity.
for that room. And,
From the health department.
Yeah, because they're gonna probably treat me just like a banquet facility, I would assume, and what do they, since we're serving food, I don't know, I mean, I guess I'd have to ask them,
I actually talked with Paul DePascal.
yeah, just to give me an idea, if you
for
think
another-
100 people, 150 people, or, I mean, it's a big space, but I don't know how they do all those
Yeah.
rules,
How to
And
keep
it could-
everything clean and
Yeah.
the surfaces
I
are
mean,
touched.
maybe you change it to like a box lunch versus an actual buffet line.
Well,
Or they-
it's
you know,
what it's
stuff
gonna
like
have
that.
to be,
Yeah.
even based upon what Rob's already
Yeah.
researched. So we need capacities, we need to know where we can look at the budgets. Is there any carryover from prior year on it, either of those funds? And quite frankly, if it comes down to, you know,
It's an easier one to get donations for, too. The veterans event is an easier one to get donations to. I did tell Rob to call Perso too, it doesn't hurt to get their opinion on liability because, you know, it's a very different circumstance. But it's an easier one to donate to.
What's the average donations that we receive on this event?
The total cost, I want to say, has always been right around 5,500. I know that we usually get one or two big sponsors. Last year, we got several like $500, $700 sponsors of people who just wanted to contribute to the donation for the meal and stuff for the veterans, things of that nature. All the vendors are donation of time and energy. We've been very lucky in that regard. I think the cost for Salute isn't
Yeah,
like the
and
cost for
yeah, Winterfest, all the lights are bought, there aren't any that need replaced. Last year, we did get some sponsors. The concern about Winterfest is, to me, is an easier one to decide, because you have kids sitting on Sienna right after, and then our community room is small, and it gets overwhelming, and nobody's gonna be able to say, you know, click count and make sure they're distancing, and now we don't, I just think Winterfest is really a risky.
Can we put a survey monkey out to see, just kind of get a feel of what people would, I mean, if we don't have a receptive turnout?
well, I think the challenge is the limited email or social media use of the diversity of the population here. I don't think you're gonna get a
I just think Winterfest is the easier one, in my opinion, only to cancel, because just alone, the kids getting on Santa, to me, you can't have a kid get on and another kid get on and another kid get on. To me, that's
Yeah,
just,
that's no different than what the rationale we used up at the water park in the.
Yeah.
You're not gonna
to
say,
me, just
sorry,
the
Johnny,
kids,
sorry, Rob.
and they're not gonna socially distance in line.
Right now, I would be in favor of saying, based on everything that we're seeing right now, that Winterfest is a bad choice.
It is,
To get all those, outside or not, there's too much close proximity.
yeah.
Do you have a lot of kids at the
Oh,
Salute to
so many
Veterans?
that,
No, for Salute to Veterans.
oh, no.
High school
No,
students.
we get
It's during
very
school.
little kids, very little.
But-
That could,
And again, you don't have to
And-
decide Winterfest until August, I'm just saying, Sienna alone, and that's why, that's the big draw, is the
the
big
other
idea.
issue with Winterfest, as it sits right now in Diamond, is because of the way the schedule's the holiday, so we have to hold soccer that night, there's no way around it, to keep the schedule of the program.
Well, we even talked about moving it as an
We
event
did,
back
and
here,
we did.
but no matter where it's at, you still have Sienna and kids getting on and off the slab nonstop.
Yeah, I just think for now, we need to eliminate all the uncertainty,
Yeah,
because we're gonna be right up to that event, we're gonna be monitoring, okay, what are gonna be the best practices or the protocol that we need now?
it's gonna change
And I think that's
nonstop.
too agonizing for anybody
I do
right
too.
now.
And I don't wanna get sponsors and cancel, so I
Correct.
think Winterfest is easy just to say, not this year. I think you can get more answers on the other event and bring it back for discussion, but to me, I'd rather just be able to at least,
I just think there's issues on the veterans that we need to take all these into consideration, because, you know, first of all, if we're eliminating, if all those groups that come bringing something to the table are not there, now there's that amount of people that aren't there. So you're not gonna have the interaction with the people that are attending, the veterans and their families there. The registration draws a huge crowd. I'm guessing
Oh, the
50% of those
Yeah,
people
and they're not coming
that
in.
are veterans that come there, a lot of them don't even wait around to eat. They come here, they get their registration card, and they leave.
I think that's a fair assessment.
So only a small portion of them are there for the full event. I say, let's brainstorm at least until the newsletter goes out. How can we pull this off? Maybe we do a virtual, we have box lunches, then we just pass out, or, I think the goal is to not forget the veterans. But, you know, if there's something that, okay, we know we can't go to this event and sit there, but at least they're thinking of us, they're doing something.
like how Chuck did Safety City.
Yeah.
Actually, that,
You could videotape the band and stuff, and that would eliminate that crowd of people being there and show it on the screen. You know, if you were doing it inside.
Or you could even put it, Facebook Live, or however, if you want to do, or you could pre-record it like you did Safety City and have a program they can click on and watch, but then drive through, you can see the monument, the additions, box lunch.
I personally think they'll all understand, but they'll also understand that we put something together because we didn't want to forget it.
Yeah.
well, actually,
I know all the veteran organizations aren't even seen, do anything like Legions, all of them, none of them are meeting. 'cause
well, I
they
mean,
don't have-
Rick's office hands down draws. That's
Yeah.
probably 90% of the
Yeah.
draw. I mean, and that's nothing disparaging to
No,
the other folks. The other
No.
folks are there.
No,
they have
but,
tables,
yeah.
You know, outside of the first 2 years where,
It was novel.
there were one or two, big pieces sitting outside,
mhm,
that was, so that could be a blessing in disguise from that aspect if we are to do it, but then, space limitations, and then we could mandate mask for the event. If we were to do that, one of the things, in order to square away those, if we do it, I'm gonna need to know in order to talk to, the speaker that get it lined up, whether it's how to record it or still being here.
Do we have a speaker lined up? Because I thought we did.
No, we have a speaker lined up. Scott actually secured him early in the spring.
Oh, because I just talked to you guys last week and I was told there was no speaker.
I don't,
I don't
I was
remember
in
that.
the office talking about when we were discussing the veteran.
I've always had it
I don't remember.
taken care of, so.
That's on a Wednesday this year, too.
correct. July 11th, or
November.
November 11th, thank you. Yeah, July 11th now.
Yeah.
I
Well,
say
I
we
mean,
think
no
about how we
decision-
could, I'd say we eliminate Winterfest. We make
Yeah.
that decision now, but
And then we'll send us questions, we have some tonight, Chuck's gonna look at capacity, you'll call Perso, we'll bring that information back, that doesn't need a decision, I just think the easy one was Winterfest,
Yeah.
because,
We don't have, there's absolutely nothing else beyond those two items.
I don't think so.
I don't,
I think those
Not
are
right.
the-
I don't believe so. I think the discussion continues further on about 2021 and what. they're-
Everything else can be facilitated by health department governing rules and best practices.
100%.
Yeah.
That's all I had.
Because
For
then it
that.
just be fast to the Easter icon.
Right, and that gives us till April 4th
Mhm.
anyway, or excuse me, March, last weekend on March 27th. Okay, if that's all, I can go ahead with number 5 and keep us moving.
Okay?
It's a resolution, but the Plain Township Board of Trustees authorized a blanket purchase order to be opened in the amount not to exceed $10,000 so that we can refund the soccer programming fees from indoor session 2 as it relates to the COVID-19 stay-at-home order and the COVID CARES Act reimbursement.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mrs. Harless,
Yes.
Mr. Sabo,
Yes.
Mr. Hawes,
Yes.
Thank you, that concludes parks.
Perfect. Nothing around the law director. It takes us to communications. Chuck, do you want to read those?
Yeah, I can. Thank you, sir. We actually had a couple of different notes that came in. The first one's kind of split between the patient and their family. Just saying thank you for caring for my daughter who had a medical problem on the 18th. I'm just kind of summarizing some of that. After midnight, and it's hard to read some of it in the cursive there. You were very kind. You explained what was going on and to make it not scary for us. Then the actual patient on the other side there. Thank you so much for taking care of me. You were very nice and remembering how you were caring to me and not making it scary. And we actually, she sent 2 of them, one to each one of the paramedics on the call, Kyle Albert and Eric Caden, who's the other gentleman, other firefighter one is to firefighter, or Lieutenant Steve Ash, I'm sorry, and firefighter Aaron Koff. Says thank you so much for your care and compassion you showed on my first EMS call ride to the hospital. I knew I was in good hands when you both appeared. You worked well together and explained the effort of the adenosine when it was administered in the squad. I appreciate the kind, or the hand on the shoulder because during adenosine, your heart stops for a second and kind of refires, if that makes sense. That's what she's getting at, and got it back to a normal rhythm. Most importantly, I was in touch with you the next call. The next call, they'd come in and they made contact with her at Mercy.
No.
I appreciate the efforts given. I can't quite read that name, Chris. I'm not sure what the last name is exactly.
Milsitich?
Yeah. So, so anyway, I had a couple calls there that people took the time to write in for. So we appreciate that and their efforts towards us.
That's why our fire levies always pass so immediately.
Nothing else under communications, takes us to public speaks. Nobody in the audience that wishes to address the board. That'll take us to concerns of trustees. I have just strictly the Starfire update. For the record, I think Lisa, you can keep me honest here. We have worked for almost 5 years to get funding over there for that project. The first time it fell through essentially because of bankruptcy filings with the owner, so there was some legal stuff there. Second go round, we again secured funding working with regional planning, but it got nixed because of, we'll call it brownfield abatement work that was identified up on North Market and figuring same owner, operator, similar circumstances, but on a bigger lot, potential exposure there for unforeseen costs that funds weren't. So that being said, working still with regional planning, the land bank, and those legal issues now being mitigated, they did start to remove, they sent the equipment last week, maybe?
Yeah.
I think it was.
They removed the tanks.
And they've removed the tanks, they're still sitting on the property, but it definitely goes to show you gotta keep after it. I think, as I've noted before, we also need to keep an eye on that through the land bank, because that's commercial property right there.
Yes.
We can have further discussions
Yeah.
on that.
Yeah, if the board back then would have said, oh, we didn't, they dropped the grant and let it go, we wouldn't be, that's the case of you just keep going for it. And kept applying for that grant and we got it, and it has been an easy 5 years.
Exercise of futility, it seemed
Yeah.
like at moments, but,
Yeah.
okay. Anything else? Concerns of the fiscal officer?
No concerns.
Okay, it takes us to the approval of the minutes. I'll also move on to the approval of the minutes for June 23rd, 2020.
Oh,
Second.
Discussion, roll call,
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
yes.
Mrs. Harless?
And then I will also move on approval of the minutes for June 26th, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, roll call,
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
We do have a need for executive session. So be it hereby resolved by the Plain Township Board of Trustees, Stark County, Ohio, to adjourn to executive session at 7:05 p.m. from this regular meeting of the Plain Township Board of Trustees as authorized under Ohio Revised Code 121.22G for the purpose of consideration of 7A.
Second.
Discussion, roll call,
Mr. Hawes?
yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.